The danger is a lot of times we can just get caught up in living in that fantasy world in our minds and not come back and really start to take the millimeter steps of creation.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Amanda Kaufman Show. And we are continuing our series on the coaches that don't suck. So welcome, Amy. I'm so excited that you're here. Amy is a thought habits money mindset coach, and she is so eager to share with us about her book that has been published and all of those good things. Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I love the title. I'm really excited to be in this group.
Yeah, right. This is a prestigious club of the coaches that don't suck. And so for the listener, Amy, why don't you take 30 seconds and just let us know, who do you work with? What do you do? What's your core expertise?
Sure. I'm celebrating my 8-year anniversary almost today. It's tomorrow of starting Amy Kemp Inc. And at the beginning of this work, I thought I was just going to do a little something on the side and pull together some incredible women and use the assessment tool called the Habit Finder and the curriculum that corresponds with it to guide them through the process of replacing habits of thinking that aren't serving them or that could be holding them back. And it more quickly than I ever could have anticipated or dreamed, became my full-time work as I saw the impact this kind of deeper change had on people's businesses and on their lives and on their careers. So it's been a really amazing, unexpected journey.
You've said it's unexpected. What surprised you so much on this journey?
I think I didn't have, and I'm generally a pretty strategic thinker, but in this instance, I really just continued to have the same conversation with so many different women that I knew in my life. And I thought to myself, if I could get them all together, something really magical could happen. They could really use each other's energy and just to know they weren't alone in the journey. And so the reason it was so unexpected is that I didn't think I was really starting a business that would become my full-time work. I just thought, okay, I'll do this on the side because I see this glaring need and continue to run my other business. I just didn't believe or know. I guess I would have believed it, but I just didn't anticipate that it would grow as quickly as it did. And so I'm grateful because I feel like this work is a very stripped down version of work I've always done in developing people. This just kind of allows me to use the Habit Finder tool and curriculum and to be more intimate where I can just really work on the things I was most passionate about always as I was leading people. So, yeah.
I love that. And so you mentioned that you had another business. So have you been a career entrepreneur? Is coaching relatively new at the 8-year mark? Like what was
Yeah. I was leading a sales organization of about 1,000 people across the United States. So
no big deal.
Yeah. I was developing people always, just teaching them more specifically in a lane of product. And, I was really more specifically geared in one business. This business has allowed me to work with people who own all different kinds of businesses and or who work in sales, or maybe just they have a traditional job even, or they work for a government entity or a nonprofit. So it has just expanded. But the cool part is they're just people. Everyone's just people.
Everyone's just people. It's so true. And I really think of coaching as being an influencing role for sure. There's a lot of overlap with sales. It's just the subject matter that we're talking about, the context, and sometimes you're selling people on believing in themselves, right? Like there's lots of overlap there. So Amy, it blew up. You even wrote a book. So tell us a little bit about that journey. Like, how did the book come about?
Well, I've been writing the book for 25 years. That's what I always tell people. I mean, not really, but 25 years of developing my own leadership style, voice, figuring out who I was in the context of being an entrepreneur. And so this book has been a dream of mine for a very long time. What I really wanted to create, and actually the reason I chose the publisher that I did is because when she read it, she said to me, the owner of the publishing company said, I feel like this is a coaching experience in a book. Like when I have read what you've written, I felt like I stepped into a coaching engagement with you and got to experience what that would feel like. And I thought of it sort of like, for people who aren't familiar with work like this, they've never done it, or maybe it just feels like that's a lot of money to invest in myself, or maybe I'm not sure what kind of coach I want to work with or how to do that. This was a way for me to kind of create a foyer to my house that I was building where people could just step into the foyer and sort of look around and see if this was the kind of place where they wanted to stay, or if this felt like a good fit for them. And so the tool, while it stands alone and provides a lot of value to my reader, it really also, I wanted to give people a taste that was safe where they could kind of experience the work I do without it being the deep dive right away.
Yeah, love that. That's like super opposite to what I did. I'm in, and I love that. I love this because that's one of the reasons I do this show, right? And this is one of the reasons why I love interviewing other entrepreneurs. I'm also 8 years in. And I did it like super opposite land. Like I went just all very premium, very private, small group of clients. And I have yet to write the book. And I kind of worked my way down the ladder, I guess you could say. But the book is such a useful tool, just exactly the way you laid it out. I'm not even going to repeat it because it was just so good. And I think it was like literally one of the biggest challenges that I had building my business was that it would go from like, hey, I kind of like you, Amanda. I think you could help me, to like, yeah, and here's a really big commitment that you've got to make next, right? And so now at this stage of my business, I'm offering other ways for people to be able to, sample the goods, so to speak. And a vast majority never escalate. But yeah, I'm so curious, in your 8 years, what has been the biggest challenge, would you say, in building a business for you personally?
Yeah, well, I was going through a pretty significant professional transition, meaning I was leaving one space where I was, for lack of a better way to say it, famous. I don't know how to, not famous, but like in a very tiny little world, very
right. But you had your status that you had achieved because no one gets promoted to leading a team of 1,000 people on accident. Like that was hard work that got recognized in a community.
Yes. And also I knew that that people wouldn't be happy that I was leaving that space, and they would have their own experiences with my choices in that way. And that was difficult because I had deeply invested in a lot of people and really care about them. Thankfully, and maybe it's a testament to building that business through really solid, strong relationships, that those relationships with particularly my key leaders are very strong to this day. But that was a difficult internal transition also in terms of identity. I was stepping into a world I knew nothing about still, and people will use catchphrases around this work. I'm like, I don't know what that means. But what I do know is the people I serve.
There you go.
I know. And even in the process of writing the book, there would be times I'd get a little spooked about the concept of writing a book. But if I focused in and thought about my ideal reader, the person I was writing the book for, I'm very clear. And I know who she is.
Like, dear listener, that's the secret, right? Like if you did have to leave the episode, which you should not, but if you did have to leave right now with that golden nugget, like if you ever find yourself completely in your head about your marketing, your sales, your systems, your tech, your finances, all of these things, make it about them, right? Like really think about them. And I think what you're saying too about that sort of pressure to people please, I feel like that's a very common experience for both female entrepreneurs and also coaches just in general, because we're in a people service business, again, that's not entirely accidental. So one of the little phrases I try to remind myself is I love to see people pleased. I'm not a people pleaser, because it gets very, very painful if it is like I'm living for everyone else's opinion. You can't and make a great transition into the next thing. And even once you make that transition into the next thing, if you're worried about pleasing the people who were with you on like super ground zero, and now you're leveling up to that next level as a business owner, and you're like, oh, I don't want to change anything, but you must if you're going to level up to that next place. That people pleasing energy is definitely something that holds a lot of us back. So thanks for sharing that.
Of course.
So Amy, tell us a little bit about the book itself. So what's it? Who is it really perfect for, and what's to talk about?
My favorite question is not really even what did I write it about, but who is it for? And it is written for women who want more impact, influence, and income without more work. However, I will say, this is so funny. I was playing pickleball this morning, and one of the guys I played pickleball with, who's just a riot, he's one of my favorite people to play with, he comes bounding in the gym. He said, "What? I read your book, and I don't know why you said it's for women, because I thought it was really beneficial." Like, it was the funniest. I was so shocked. I said, first of all, what? Like, it was so, but he said, well, my girlfriend was next to me on the plane. I look over, there's your face. And I thought, I'm going to read that. I play pickleball with her all the time. Anyhow, we had this really great conversation. So while I do the messaging in the book and the people I serve are mostly women, I will say I've gotten really great feedback from men who have taken a dive into the world as well. The core message of the book is that you can't outwork your thought habits. So
you can't outwork your thought habits. Say more about that.
Yeah. So the work I do is around subconscious habits of thinking, and the Habit Finder assessment kind of gives me a picture of what's going on beneath the surface of the brain. Every entrepreneur I know reaches a point in the growth of their business where there are no more hours, there's not more energy that they can give to the business, and yet they want to take the business to a new place. And there comes a point where just working harder actually can have a diminishing return, or can be detrimental, or even can cause you. I mean, I've seen a lot of people get actually physically sick because they just keep trying to work harder to solve every problem. But there does come a point where we've got to stop and really address the subconscious habits of thinking that are creating outcomes in our lives and businesses that are holding us back, frankly, or that are causing a lot of pain, or that are really just sort of hiccups, sort of like if you had a bump in your tire and then every time you hit it, it kind of bumps you and jars you. And so there comes a point where the growth has to come from the internal. I always say like personal growth precedes professional growth, but where a leader or an owner or an entrepreneur, in order to go to the next level, absolutely must address some of those habits of thinking and really do some work there.
I love that. So, our audience is very typically coaches, like I said, kind of people-minded people. What would you say are some of the top thought pattern habits that you see holding, for example, a coach back from their next level of success, whether it's getting their next 5 clients, or it's, finally offloading some things to systems or to a team? Like, what do you see get in the way the most?
Okay. One that I love to talk about is that a lot of entrepreneurs are fantastical thinkers, where their brains can very vividly see what it is that they want to create in the future. They can imagine it with such clarity that if we hooked their bodies up to monitors, it would be as if they were experiencing the thing they are visualizing. So you may be visualizing a revenue outcome, or the growth or the launch of a new product or service, or a new location, and your brain can really go and see the thing that isn't there. The danger is a lot of times we can just get caught up in living in that fantasy world in our minds and not come back and really start to take the millimeter steps of creation. I see this with coaches a lot. Other coaches that use the tool I do, for example, a lot of them are probably better coaches than I am, but they don't take the millimeter steps that create the clients. And they get caught up in like, oh, I'm going to make all of this money doing this thing and serving people. And they probably really do have natural genius in the area of coaching, but there's the business of coaching, but there's the work of coaching, but there's also the work of acquiring new clients. And we can get caught up in the fantasy world and then not do that tiny work.
I'm going to yes and that, right? Yes, it's the client acquisition. And another thing I see is once people master client acquisition, they're like, okay, I'm done. And it's like, wait, hang on a second. You're now managing new capital. You've got to be able to sustain and scale this thing. And hey, the market's always changing. Like you never get away from I think one of the delusions that I see the most is like this arrival thinking. And it is like you're living in that future place and you're like, yes, I just believe. And it's like, that's important to believe it, right? Because if you don't believe it, you're going to half-ass it and you're not going to get any good results. But believing it and experiencing it in your mind is different than necessarily, like you said, taking the step-by-step, day by day of the work, shall we say, of being a coach.
It's sort of like someone saying, well, maybe it's sort of like going on a diet, right? Like I go on a diet, I think, okay, well, I get to my goal weight, now I'm done.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Not really
that
done.
Natural tendency to pull back from effort.
Yeah.
I saw a documentary, well, it was like kind of a documentary. It's called Stutz on Netflix and I loved it. It was a psychiatrist. And I believe it was Jonah Hill's psychiatrist is the whole thing. So anyway, totally worth a watch if you're a coachy type. But one of the things he said in there that just rocked me is that there's 3 certainties in life, and these are the same 3 things that we are basically wired to avoid. And that is pain, uncertainty, and effort, work, right? And I was like, dang, dude, you pretty much summed it up right there, that we're trying to avoid, say, the pain of rejection, or we're trying to avoid like the effort required for follow-up, or, or we want to have that certainty that like, okay, but if I do this masterclass, I'm definitely going to make $25,000, right?
Yes. The other way this particular habit of thinking can go is to catastrophe. So I tell the story in my book. I had a call with a prospective client and it went really well. It just really felt like we connected, and I sent a follow-up email right away, but then I got busy and I didn't hear back, and it was maybe 3 days later. So I think I reached out again, but then didn't hear back, and at that point I start to tell a story of maybe I misread the situation. Maybe I was being salesy. Maybe, I'm kind of filling in blanks that are left by this lack of response. So finally, I get an email back and it says, here's the email that has been stuck in my drafts folder for the last week. And here's the moral of the story is, first, if you're going to tell yourself a story, you might as well tell yourself a good one, because I could tell myself I was pushy. He thought I was weird. I misread the situation, which causes me to show up for every following conversation with less confidence and less presence and less fullness of self, right? Or I could say, maybe it got stuck in his drafts and I just haven't heard back from him because of that. Right?
Yeah.
Either could be true. And it turns out that the story that, we ended up working together for 2 years. But I think a lot of times our brains can fill in with catastrophe, and whether that even is true or not. And we spend all this time in these made up scenarios of bad things that could happen. And our brains are so fast to get there instead of being present in the moment and showing up fully for the thing that's right in front of you, the conversation you're having in this moment, the email you're sending right now, the marketing material you're writing today, just being fully in the moment of the work you're doing.
So good. So good. Amy, what is the best way for people to follow you?
Yeah, I love Instagram. So Amy Kemp Inc. is my Instagram handle. That's a fun, fast, easy way to find me and just sort of follow along with things I'm learning as I'm sharing them as I'm going. So that's the easiest way. I also would invite you into my foyer of my book. It is titled I See You, and you can purchase it anywhere you get books. So Amazon, Bookshop, Barnes and Noble, and then the Audible is my voice. So I did read it. So if you are a listener of books, I've had a ton of great feedback about listening to this particular book. There's a lot of story and it's a conversational book. So it does work well on Audible.
That's amazing. That's so good. And hey, listener, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss another episode, and go ahead and leave a 5-star review. Amy showed up. She was bringing you the exact secret sauce. I loved it. Really good episode. But that review really, it helps people choose to listen to this podcast. And we always appreciate you taking the 30 seconds to do that. And also, if you've got some friends that are, working on their confidence, they're building their next phase of their business, this is a nice, short, punchy episode to share with them. So go ahead and share this with 3 of your friends. We'll see you on another episode, and take care for now.